Almost all civil service credit cards will be frozen this week to try to cut government spending. So-called wasteful spending on credit cards had quadrupled in the past 4 years without enough scrutiny, according to the government. Civil servants will now have to reapply and justify why they need the card to regain access. The Ministry of Defence says it has set up a new task force to tackle violence against women and girls in the military. It's after a coroner found systemic failures had contributed to the death of Royal Artillery gunner Jaisley Beck, who took her own life in 2021. The Veterans Minister, Alistair Cairns, said he's committed to making sure the armed forces is a place where everyone can thrive. The Conservative leader, Kemi Badenoch, is to set the party on a new path for tackling climate change, questioning the current 2050 target to reach net zero carbon emissions. In a speech later today, she will say the date set in 2019 can't be achieved without a serious drop in living standards or bankrupting the country.
Let's have a look at the papers, shall we? The front pages, and lots of them focusing on the government's plans to overhaul the welfare system, as we've been talking about this morning. This is the Mirror. Don't punish the needy is their headline. The paper saying that unions are urging the Prime Minister not to target the poor.
The Guardian calls it D-Day for benefit cuts and says Sir Keir Starmer faces a growing tide of opposition.
The proposed reforms will increase reassessments for those claiming sick benefits, according to The Times, although Henry's been telling us this morning there might have been some changes and developments on that issue overnight. In another political story, the Daily Mail says the Conservatives might ditch the 2050 target for the UK to reach net zero carbon emissions. Party leader Kemi Badenoch said the goal can't be met without a serious drop in living standards or bankrupting the country. Now, it's been described as the most impactful piece of television in years. The new crime drama, Adolescence, deals with male rage, toxic masculinity, online misogyny, and it has stopped so many viewers in their tracks, hasn't it?
Including both of us.
Yeah, totally.
The 4-part Netflix series, influenced by real events, follows the story of how a family's world is turned upside down when their 13-year-old son is arrested for the murder of a teenage girl.
At 6, the government unveils its plan to overhaul what it calls Britain's broken benefits system.
The status quo is unacceptable, but it is not inevitable.
The government says it will save £5 billion a year by 2030. It'll affect millions of people. We'll tell you how they plan to do it. The government has unveiled its plan to reform the welfare system and save up to £5 billion a year by the end of the decade. The Work and Pensions Secretary, Liz Kendall, told MPs that the overhaul was necessary to fix a social security system which is failing the very people it is supposed to help, with too many out of work and stuck on benefits. But there has been a furious response from some MPs and charities who say the plans are immoral. Now, this is how the government is planning to save billions of pounds by 2030. They will make it harder for some people in England and Wales to claim personal independence payments, or PIPs as they're known. These are payments for people with a long-term physical or mental health condition who struggle to complete everyday tasks. Those under the age of 22 will be stopped from claiming the top-up to universal credit. For people who are unwell, it's called the incapacity top-up. To help more people back into work, there's going to be a right to try working for a period of time without the threat of losing benefits. And the government says it will spend £1 billion in employment support for those sick or disabled to help them find work. The £5 million gold toilet stolen from Blenheim Palace, 2 men have been found guilty over its theft. And small plastic pellets are washing up on the east coast of England after a container ship collided with a tanker.
It's a cold case that's never been solved. In 1975, young model Eve Stratford, who'd been working as a Playboy bunny, was found dead at her East London flat. She'd been murdered. Many years later, after a development in DNA technology, her death was linked to that of a teenager killed in West London the same year. But despite numerous appeals, police have never identified the killer. Well, 50 years after Eve's death, her friends say they've never forgotten her and want her murder solved.